In any business, one of the most dreaded responses you can get to selling your offer, your product, your program, your course, whatever it may be, your services, is that's too expensive. And after so many years in this industry and well over a decade as an entrepreneur and $30 million in revenue and sales later, I look at this response as an opportunity, not an obstacle. And I want to share in this video why hearing that is so valuable and the best way to respond that's going to set you up for long-term success. So if you're excited about that, give this video a like. Be sure to subscribe for new videos every single week. So the steps we're going to walk through today of how to best tackle this, and when a client says it's too expensive to you, diagnosing, self-analysis, and then of course, digging into the actual tactics of how to respond to this in a way that makes you feel aligned and makes the client or the lead feel really good as well. This is the place to be to build a peaceful, purposeful, and profitable online course business. It's what we do. It's what we've been doing for a really long time. And if you're serious about taking your unique genius, your skill set, your expertise, your experience, packaging it, and no longer trading time for money so you can make a massive impact while also increasing your income, there is a link below to apply to speak to a real human on my team to see how we can best support you on that journey. And don't worry, if you're sitting there going, okay, well, this is great, and I'm gonna watch this, but I also don't really know how to price my offer. I have a whole video that I created on picking the right price as well. I'll put it in the description below so you can check that out after this video. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's diagnose the objection first and foremost, because if we aren't clear on what the actual objection is, then we have no idea how to actually respond to it. And oftentimes you'll panic, you'll push, you'll get salesy and gross, and it won't feel very good. Let me know in the comments if that's ever happened to you and tell me your panic story because I think we could all relate to it. Okay, so diagnosing the objection when it comes to sales, there's really 4 core objections. And it's financial, meaning it's all about the price, the cost, the person is just like, I can't afford it, that's too expensive, etc. I want to circle back to that in just a second, but the other ones are spouse or partner. So, my husband, my wife, my partner doesn't think this is a good idea, doesn't think I should do it. Time, I don't have the time, this isn't the right time, or uncertainty. So here's the really interesting part about this. This objection right here can be encompassing of all of the above. Because if someone isn't certain on the value, not the cost, but the value of what they're investing into, they're gonna find every excuse in the book to not actually invest. And people wanna be polite, they don't wanna be rude. So they're gonna use a person, their partner, as a human shield. They're gonna use time as an excuse, or they're gonna use money as an excuse. So this can be all encompassing. Now, of course, these other ones can be true, but I just wanted to make that really clear. This uncertainty objection is probably the biggest killer, because if somebody doesn't really understand what they're investing into, they're not going to invest, period. I also wanna clarify something that's really important to understand. If somebody says to you, I can't afford it, it's too much for me right now, really understand that that does not mean what you have to sell is too expensive. It just means they genuinely may not be in a position to be able to afford it. So we're gonna tackle that and navigate that when we get to the best way to respond to this a little bit later in this video. So once you truly understand what the actual objection is, and it's very easy to do so. One of the things you can say, if somebody says, it's just too much, I can't afford that right now. The best sort of simple response to that, to really dig deep into what is actually going on and if that is genuinely true, is to simply say, okay, great, no problem. If finances are the only issue, let's just take that out of the equation. If you could afford this right now, is there anything else that's holding you back from making this decision? That's gonna help you really get to the root of what's really going on, what's the actual objection. Same thing goes for, okay, well, if your partner is on board and it isn't an issue for them, anything else holding you back? Always want to ask that to truly get to the root of it. Now, really important, before we even dig into responding or anything like that, you have to understand and feel confident in the price that you've chosen. We call this value-based pricing. So value-based pricing is always related to the cost to your clients. What is it costing your client to not have the solution and the transformation that you provide through your program, your course, your offer, your service? And the way to really dig into that is to think about hard costs and also mental, financially spiritually, emotionally, what is it costing them? So I want to give you a real world example of this. So I have a client who works with women who are coming back from maternity leave and want to breastfeed their child for the first year. They are committed to breastfeeding for the first year. So that means they're going to need to pump, and that is her expertise. She's incredibly good at what she does. She's attracted so many amazing clients and amazing results. Obviously, I'm super interested in what she does because I'm about to become a mom myself. So just on the cost side of this, if you look at the cost to her clients of not having what she offers and not investing into her program that really works, these women, when I spoke to her and we talked about the cost, she said, they're investing into things like lactation consultants. They're trying all these different methods. They're wasting their time researching. They're buying every breast pump on the market and not even know if it really works. They're looking at books. They're looking at all of these different things. And if it doesn't work out for them, they get so frustrated, they're going to be spending a ton of money on things like formula as well, which is something that they initially don't want to do because their goal is to breastfeed for that first year. So that's a really good indicator of like, okay, this is what it's costing this person. So you always have to think, okay, here's the solution that I'm providing to people. What's the cost to them not to have it? And that's going to help you feel really, really confident in your price point so you can handle objections from a place of certainty and a place of knowing your value, which is vitally important, because if you don't know your value, you may be able to diagnose the actual objection, but you won't feel confident actually tackling it. This is something that we tackle in depth inside of our Authority Accelerator program. Like I said, there's a link below to apply. It's where we help you take your unique genius and your skill set and package it into a scalable online course. And obviously, sales is a big component of that. So we really do focus on it. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on here is, let's just take that example for a second. And let's focus on the actual journey you're taking your client on and why it's really important to understand where the person is at in order to truly understand if their objection is real or not real. So, and people are not actively lying, it just happens. So you want to take your client, when you have a service, an offer, a program, etc., you're taking your ideal client from the 0 state to the hero state. You're getting them from where they are currently to where they ultimately want to be, creating that transformation. Now, here's the thing. So take, for example, women who are going or on mat leave or going back to work and they want to breastfeed for the first year. If the client is at the point on their journey where they're newly pregnant, for example, or they're already 6 months into their journey and struggling, these two starting points for where they're at are going to be completely different, and the motivations for these clients is going to be completely different. So if somebody is newly pregnant, they're not the ideal client and they're really not ready to invest. So if they give you a time objection and they say this isn't the right time, very well could be true. And you, as the founder of the business and the person who's actually speaking to these people, you need to know that so you can support, guide, and be ready when they are actually at the place where they're ready for what you have to offer. If they're 6 months into their journey, have they tried a bunch of other things? Have they already sort of fallen off the path? Are you really able to help them? Again, the timing objection may be very true in that sense as well. The financial objection may also be very true, and the spouse objection. If the spouse is like, you've tried everything, I'm sick of it, this program's probably not the right time for them and it's probably not the right thing that they're going to invest in. And the financial piece of it as well, if they've bought everything and sunk a bunch of costs into this and they're fed up, again, they may be past the point on their journey where they're the perfect fit for your program. And again, that helps you further assess and diagnose that objection so you can really understand how to best support them. And that doesn't always mean selling them into your program. The next piece of this is self-analysis to be proactive. And what I mean by this is you have to really be aware of your current situation and what's motivating you when you are actually going to sell whatever it is that you have to offer. And I am a firm believer, I've said this a million times on this channel, selling is an act of generosity when you are a believer in what you're selling and when you know what you're selling is actually working and has results and is validated. It's actually an act of generosity because you're solving a problem for the person who needs you most. So self-analysis means, okay, if you're talking to somebody and they say to you it's too expensive and your gut reaction is to push back and prove yourself and prove the value and prove the worth, instead of sort of going, okay, no problem, I know the value of what I do, so let's figure out what we can do to make this work for you. We have to consider what's going on for you. So one of the biggest factors to going into that sort of push energy and feeling really salesy and not in alignment is that you probably don't have a security blanket. So one of the biggest factors to creating spaciousness and abundance in any business is really making sure that you have runway. Runway means that if your business stopped today, how many months are you covered financially to cover your costs and expenses? So building up runway is a long-term strategy and approach to never having to really push or force people into buying from you. When we act from a place of panicking and financial stress and not really caring if the person is the ideal client, that's often where you can run into a lot of chaos and problems in your business. So I wanted to mention that first and foremost. Now, the other piece of this and self-analysis, as I mentioned in the video that I mentioned earlier about how to pick the right price, there's a big difference between a Googleable and a profitable online program. A Googleable topic or offer is very broad and general, and it's something that people will just go online and research, especially if they're not at the right place on their journey to truly invest, and there's no urgency or real pain for them. Profitable is you know exactly who you're serving, you know exactly where they're at in their journey, and you know this is exactly what they need, and that's what you want to create. When you know that and when you've done that, when people try to negotiate with you on your price, it is a hard no. Why? Your price is your price is your price. You need to feel so confident in the value of what you're providing and the cost to your client of not having it. If they say no, or they say it's too expensive, or they have every excuse in the book, no problem. Their loss, not yours. Or you can work with them to make it a reality and make it work depending on what their situation is. But negotiating is a no-go. Why? I've been in business long enough to know that when people try to negotiate on a hard price and a price that you've set based on value, they are breaking your boundaries before they ever even work with you. And what does that result in? A client who's going to continuously break your boundaries and be a nightmare and suck all the time and energy out of you when you should be focusing on the people who truly do see the value and actually want to be there. I would actually love to know, and you can let me know in the comments if you've ever negotiated on your price and regretted it. Let's share those horror stories, shall we? So the final piece of the puzzle is the actual response. What do you say? How do you tackle this? So you're having this conversation, the person says that's way too expensive, you know, whatever, they're in panic mode. You have to really understand that people's immediate response to cost generally is fight, flight, or freeze. And so you want to really realign them, not into holy crap, that's expensive, because honestly, expensive compared to what? You know, the amount of time, energy, money they've wasted trying to find a solution, if you add that all up, it's not expensive. So you want to ground them in value as opposed to cost. So again, easiest first response if somebody says that's too expensive is no problem. No problem at all. So let's just, you know, take the finance piece out of the equation. If the finances were an issue, do you feel aligned that this is what you truly need? They're going to say yes or no. Gives you an opportunity to chat through that. If they say yes, you ask them why. Why specifically do you feel like this is what you need? That's going to ground them in the value, and it's going to bring them back to center instead of panicking and going, oh my gosh, it's money, 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 cost, cost, cost. They're going to go, wow, yeah, no, after the conversation we've had, I know this is what I truly need. And then you can work from a place of planning, guidance, and support, as opposed to panic and pushing, which is never going to work out well. So then you're really going to know, okay, well, this isn't just a option for them. They know they need to do this. It's just a matter of the financial situation. So from there, you can act as their guide and you can work with them to find a plan. You can ask them, you know, okay, let's plan out and map out what date makes the most sense for this to work for you and when you can save up by. Or we can break up the payment. Would that work a little better for you? And what does that look like for you? In an ideal world, if you could get started today, what would you be able to invest? Just having a natural conversation about this and not freaking out is the best way to get your client in the door so they can get the results that they're after and for you to feel in total alignment. And if they're still coming back to, it's just too much money, etc., you want to ask them, like I said, in comparison to what? What is this expensive in comparison to? And explain and just say, you know, I would understand if this was expensive because it didn't deliver on what we know it delivers on, but because we know it's going to get the results that you're after, X, Y, and Z, is it still expensive for you? And if they're still kind of going back to, it's just too expensive, it's too expensive, it's too expensive, again, it may not genuinely be the right time for this person. They may not be at the place where they're actually ready to do the work, and that's a lose-lose all around. It doesn't mean that you forget about this person. You still want to continue to nurture, etc., but you still want to try and ground it back. So you want to ask something like, as I mentioned earlier, compared to what? You know, I would understand that this is too expensive if it didn't deliver on what you need and the results that you're looking for. But from what I understand, And what you mentioned in saying that this is exactly what you need and the reasons that you gave, it does that. Am I wrong? And another helpful question is, okay, let's just paint a picture. Let's say it's 6 months from now and you haven't made any progress on this. What do you think that's realistically going to cost you? Mentally, financially, emotionally? Have them talk about that. Ground them again in the value. And then to kind of wrap it all up, you can simply say, okay, I want to ask one final question. You got on this call, you booked this call with me, you came to me for the solution. I'm so curious, what brought you here? To ground them again in their intention and knowing that they are here because they need help. And so then you can simply say, I know, and as you mentioned, this is what you need. So either this is a matter of you don't trust me, but as you mentioned, you have a lot of faith and trust in this process and you know it's right for you, or you don't trust yourself. And for me, what I'm seeing is it's more so the latter. And then you can really dig into that. And again, if they are so consumed by their own fears, that's something you can work through with them. Whether they're going to invest right away, invest 2 days from then, invest a month from now, it's delayed but not denied. Every person who comes to you seeking help, inevitably at some point, they're going to be ready. So you want to lead with compassion, generosity, understanding, and to be a guide and a friend for them so they don't panic themselves out of the solution that they really need. So to summarize, if they truly cannot do this right now, then you want to make a plan. Make a plan of, okay, we are going to touch base on this date. That is when you think you can have X amount saved by, and that's when we'll get you started and ready to go. Then you're working with them and not against them, and you're not giving up on them. If they truly can invest, but they don't have maybe the full payment, then you can work with them on what makes the most sense in terms of maybe breaking up the payment, having a deposit, etc. But again, you're gonna make a plan with them, not against them. So those are the two options. That is the best way to respond when somebody tells you it's too expensive. It's not about pushing, it's not about proving your worth. You know your value, you know what you do, you know the results you get, and you know you have something that they need at the end of the day, and it is an act of service that you're providing that to them. So you both need to be at the same page and totally aligned that this is the right decision, and then that leads to the most incredible transformational results for your clients. And I think it's so important to understand you don't need or want every single client on the planet. You want to work with the people who are ready to do the work, show up, and truly invest. Because that leads to, again, long-term success for the business and a ton of social proof, validation, credibility. So like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We work with our clients inside of our Authority Accelerator program every single day to scale their expertise and package it into an online program that can smash the impact and the income ceiling. And if you're ready to do the same, click the link below, fill out the application, and speak to a real human on my team to see how we can best support you on that journey. Everything we do is completely organic and it focuses on high profitability, peace, and purpose in your business and creating an aligned business model for yourself. If you got value from this, I'd love to know in the comments below what your light bulb moments were. Comments are my love language. Give this video a like so we reach more people in the algorithm. Be sure to subscribe for new videos every single week. And like I said, check out this video next on how to pick the perfect price point. I know it'll be really helpful considering what we just talked about. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.